Don't talk to her. She smells like death and piss. Those were the first words Malik heard when he bent down to hand her a warm sandwich. But he didn't flinch. Not this time. Malik James was 15 and used to being stared at this hoodie, his skin, his silence. On the streets of Easton Heights, being black meant you were noticed for all the wrong reasons unless you were invisible. And the old white woman, slumped by the pharmacy dumpster, she'd mastered invisibility. Skin like paper, hair like straw, and a stare so vacant it could have been a mirror. Everyone had a nickname for her. Crackhead Clara, the ghost of Fairview. Some kids even swore she talked to birds and buried money in tin cans. Malik didn't believe in ghosts or urban legends, but he believed in hunger, and she looked like she hadn't eaten in days. He dropped the sandwich on the crate beside her. She didn't move. "You don't have to eat it," he said, standing. "But it's warm, and I didn't spit in it." Still nothing. He turned to leave. "Do you think I look like a Clara?" she whispered. Malik froze. Her voice was raspy, like wind through dry leaves. He turned back slowly. She was staring right at him now, sharp, unblinking, almost amused. "I don't know what you look like," he muttered. "I just thought you might be hungry." She reached for the sandwich with hands that trembled like loose leaves in a storm. "I was hungry," she said, "until you called me Clara." He sat, right there on the sidewalk. People passed and stared. Cars honked. Someone shouted, but Malik didn't care. "I didn't call you that," he said. "They did. Then you listened to them." He flinched. She was right. "What's your name?" he asked. She took a long bite of sandwich before answering. "Evelyn. Evelyn Armitage." Malik blinked. That name Armitage was on half the buildings downtown. The hospital, the library, even a stupid art museum his school forced them to visit every year. "Like the Armitage Foundation?" he asked. She nodded, chewing. "That's crazy. That's like billionaire stuff." She corrected. It was billionaire stuff. She didn't elaborate, and Malik didn't push. Not yet. They met every day after that. He'd bring her leftovers, sometimes hot chocolate, and she'd offer stories in return, cryptic tales of marble halls, betrayals, and a brother named Roland who sold his soul and mind. At first Malik thought she was just senile, but then she started naming people. Real people. Judges. CEOs. Senators. And the things she said about them, they weren't the kind of lies you made up. They were too boring, too specific, too real. One day, she handed him a notebook, leather-bound, cracked at the spine. "Hide this," she said. "Don't read it." Not yet. He opened the first page anyway. There were names, amounts, bank codes, dates. "Is this a hit list?" he joked. "No," she said. "It's worse." The next day, Evelyn was gone. Malik searched every corner of the neighborhood. Pharmacy, soup kitchen, church steps, even the alley behind the bar with a broken neon sign. Nothing. He asked around. Most people shrugged. A few laughed. One man said, "Guess she finally OD'd." But Malik couldn't shake the feeling in his gut. That notebook, it hadn't been a joke, and neither was she. He went home, locked the door, and read it cover to cover. It was a confession, not Hershey or Brothers, and others. Transactions tied to the opioid crisis. Shell companies connected to politicians. A judge who ruled against poor tenants, but secretly owned slum buildings. Evelyn's notes were meticulous. Cold. Furious. On the last page, she'd written, "I built a kingdom, and he buried me in its basement." Malik's hands trembled. He couldn't sleep. The next morning, he did something stupid. He took the notebook to the local news station. They laughed, literally laughed in his face. "A homeless woman and a teenage boy," the receptionist said. "That's your source." He stormed out, humiliated. That night, a black SUV followed him home. He started seeing men in suits standing too long outside the corner store. One of them looked straight at him and mouthed, We know. He told his mom. She told him to stop watching crime shows. So he did the only thing he knew how. He went online. He created an anonymous account and uploaded photos of every page in that notebook. He posted Evelyn's story, her name, her warnings, her truth. At first, no one cared. Then someone did. A retired journalist from the Washington Globe messaged him privately. She'd heard rumors years ago about Evelyn Armitage, how she'd vanished after a legal battle with her family, how she tried to expose a cover-up but was discredited and labeled unstable. A paranoid old woman with a drinking problem. Malik told her everything. The journalist flew to Easton Heights 2 days later. When Malik met her at the diner, she was already crying. "I knew she was alive," she whispered, "but no one believed me." The story broke within a week. It exploded. Front page. National headlines. Evelyn Armitage, the billionaire who lived in rags. Investigations were reopened. Executives indicted. Her brother Roland Armitage was arrested at his mansion in Vermont. Malik was hailed a hero. Evelyn's name became a symbol of truth crushed by power. But Evelyn never resurfaced. The last line in the article written about her read, "Some say she died long before she ever disappeared. Others believe she's watching, still invisible, in a world too blind to see." Malik knew the truth, because 1 week after the story broke, he received a letter with no return address. Inside was a photo, him and Evelyn, sitting on the curb, sharing a sandwich, and on the back, her handwriting, "Thank you for seeing me." The media circus moved on faster than it had arrived. Within a month, Evelyn's story had been buried under newer headline scandals, elections, war rumors. The world blinked as she vanished again, this time into memory. But Malik couldn't move on. Not really. People recognized him now. Some teachers who used to ignore him called him brilliant. Strangers gave him nods, fist bumps. Even his principal tried to parade him in front of the school board like a trophy. But none of them had sat with Evelyn on cold pavement. None of them had known her before the story broke. To them, she was clickbait. To him, she was something different. A warning, a lesson, a person. He began walking different routes home, not to avoid attention, but to search. He still looked for her. Every alley, every corner bench, hoping maybe, just maybe, she'd be sitting there with that amused glint in her eye. One afternoon, weeks after the media storm, a man approached him outside the bodega. He was dressed too clean for Easton Heights. Gray suit, polished shoes, hair slicked back like a 1950s game show host. "You Malik James?" he asked, already knowing the answer. "Who's asking?" "I work for a trust. The Armitage Trust." Malik stiffened. The man reached into his coat, slow and deliberate, and pulled out a folder. "She left this for you," he said. "Said you'd understand." Malik didn't take it right away. "You a lawyer?" "Not the kind you'd call when you're in trouble. I'm more family business." Malik opened the folder. Inside were property deeds, bank account access, a letter with Evelyn's signature at the bottom, a photo of a key, and one sentence typed in bold. "The house on Baymont Street is yours now." He'd never been to Baymont. He'd only heard about Itone, of those gated neighborhoods where the grass had personal gardeners and houses had names instead of numbers, where being black got you side-eyed by security even if you were born there. "You're joking," Malik said. The man just smiled. "She said you'd say that." That weekend, Malik and his mom took a bus out to Baymont. She didn't believe it either not until the security gate lifted for them without question. Not until the address matched. Not until the door key worked. The house was a mansion, not just big ridiculous. Chandeliers, marble floors, rooms they didn't know what to call. And on the grand piano in the foyer sat a photo of Evelyn in her prime young, beautiful, fierce sedan behind it, a plaque. "To those who see what others ignore." His mom cried that night. "This isn't just money," she said, voice trembling. This is safety. This is freedom. But Malik wasn't sure freedom ever came without a price. Because the more they stayed in the house, the more he realized how much Evelyn had hidden. Every room held secrets, letters behind false drawers, blueprints of government buildings, ledgers in code, and one locked box with the initials R.A. Her brother. Malik tried not to open it. But curiosity has a gravity. Inside were surveillance photos, audio transcripts, documents tied to private intelligence firms and secret meetings in countries Malik couldn't pronounce. Evelyn hadn't just been rich. She'd been powerful, dangerous, and she hadn't just been betrayed by her brother, she'd been hunted by him. And now Malik had all of it. That night, he locked his door, turned off all the lights, and opened her last notebook. It wasn't like the first one. This one was personal. Letters she'd written to herself. Confessions. Rage. Guilt. She blamed herself for everything: her father's death, her brother's rise, the people silenced along the way. She wrote about how the system didn't just ignore the poor. It used them, devoured them, and how she'd been part of it for too long. But then something else. A line scribbled in the margin. He's still watching. And now, so are they. That night, the mansion's security alarm tripped. No one was there, but the camera footage had been wiped. Malik told his mom they had to leave. She didn't argue. They packed a bag and moved back to Easton Heights the next day. Malik didn't explain why. He just said, it's not safe there. He stored the documents in a locker at the bus station. He encrypted everything online. He sent copies to 3 trusted contacts, including the journalist who broke the story. Then he disappeared from the spotlight. But the spotlight didn't forget him. Emails, DMs, interview requests. People wanted to buy the story, option it for movies, write books. Malik ignored them all, until one morning he received a message with no subject line, no name, just a sentence. You have what belongs to us. He closed his laptop. Later that week, he saw the man from the bodega again. Same suit, same slicked hair. This time he didn't smile. She gave you power, he said, but you weren't supposed to use it. Malik stood his ground. She gave me the truth. Truth is currency, Malik. Dangerous when spent without control. I'm not afraid of you. You should be. That night, someone slashed the tires on their car. 3 days later, someone broke into his mom's workplace and trashed her office. Malik knew what this was. Not revenge. A message. So he sent one back. He released the rest of the files. All of it. Names. Companies. Secret meetings. Evidence. And not just to one outlet, dozens. Journalists. Whistleblower groups. Human rights lawyers. Even high school newspaper editors. He made the story too big to erase. Too loud to silence. Then he vanished again. Off-grid. No phone. No school. Just notebooks, encrypted drives, and the memory of a woman who once asked him if she looked like a Clara. He knew now that she'd never been invisible. She just lived in a world that refused to look. And now that the world was watching, Malik had one final message. A new site. One page. One photo. Him and Evelyn sitting on the curb. And beneath it, in bold, you ignored her. You won't ignore me. The site went viral overnight. It wasn't the kind of viral that sparked hashtags or TikTok dance. It was the kind that made government servers crash and corporate boardrooms panic. Anonymous downloads flooded secure lines. Journalists scrambled to verify sources. Political commentators screamed across cable networks. Malik's quiet rebellion had become a reckoning. But with visibility came risk. By the 3rd day, someone tried to hack the site. By the 5th, it had been cloned, smeared, discredited by bot farms, calling Malik a fraud, a foreign asset, even a domestic terrorist. He watched it all unfold from the shadows of a forgotten internet cafe downtown. He didn't panic. Evelyn had taught him better than that. Truth doesn't need a shout. It just needs to last. The next morning, a message pinged through an encrypted channel he hadn't used since the first upload. It was from her, or rather, someone using her credentials. A video link, just 10 seconds long. He clicked it. The footage was grainy, night vision. A room, a single figure lying on a metal bed. Shackles, white hair, thin wrists. Then she looked at the camera. "Malik," she whispered. The screen went black. He stared, frozen. His throat tightened. His chest clenched with a rage so deep it burned. Evelyn was alive. They'd taken her, hidden her, all this time. He replayed it over and over, frame by frame, studying the shadows, the background hum, the light flicker patterns. Something about the air ducts. Something about the way she said his name wasn't panic. It was permission. She wanted him to find her. The journalist from the Globe called later that night. "Are you seeing what I'm seeing?" she asked. Malik nodded, even though she couldn't see him. "There's a facility," she continued, "outside Annapolis. Black site. Off record. Rumors for years. Never proved. Then we prove it. You're just a kid." "I'm not," he said. "Not anymore." She hesitated, then said something that surprised him. "I know someone who owes me a favor, and he's good with fences." 3 days later, Malik met him in a diner near the Maryland state line. The man wore a mechanic's jacket, eyes too tired for his age. Ex-military, dishonorably discharged. Nim Tag said, "Un." He didn't shake Malik's hand. "Your blood?" he asked. Malik shook his head. "Then why risk it?" "Because she saw me, and I saw her." Don nodded. "Fair enough." What followed felt like a movie. Fake IDs, burner phones, surveillance footage spliced from public satellites. Malik wasn't sure how Don got the blueprints or why the journalist trusted him. But when he looked at that facility layout, when he traced the duct system and saw the exact shape of the vent in Evelyn's video, knew. She was there, and she wasn't the only one. The site wasn't just holding Evelyn. It was a ghost persona place for whistleblowers, dissidents, liabilities. Hidden by a foundation her brother had funded decades ago. The Armitage name was on every blueprint, every security contract, every access badge. It was her kingdom, turned into her cage. They couldn't storm the place. It was too fortified. But Malik didn't want a war. He wanted exposure. So he planned something better. They leaked the layout. Not to the press, but to hackers. Real ones. The kind that made governments nervous. And within hours, systems inside the facility started to fail. Lights flickered. Doors glitched. Fire alarms triggered false evacuations. And in the chaos, Malik and Don slipped in through a service tunnel used by delivery trucks. The silence inside was unnatural. Not a prison, not a hospital, something in between. White walls, no windows, guards who didn't speak, cameras that blinked red but didn't move. They reached cell 14 just before midnight. Malik's hand trembled as he typed in the override code Don had decrypted from the server logs. The door clicked. Evelyn was inside. She was thinner, paler, but her eyes the same sharp blue that had cut through dirt and poverty locked onto him and didn't blink. "Took you long enough," she said. Malik smiled, despite the lump in his throat. "You could have left me the easy blueprints." She laughed, then coughed, then whispered, "You saw me." He stepped forward, helped her to her feet. But before they could move, the alarm blared. Don cursed. They ran. Through back corridors. Down emergency stairs. Bullets didn't fly. No one wanted a body count. But the men in suits came fast. Malik held Evelyn close, her breath shallow, her steps weak. Don led the way, hot-wiring a security door and punching codes like he was born in that building. By dawn, they were gone. Safe house in Virginia. Basement with no windows. Evelyn slept for 24 hours straight. When she woke, she didn't cry. She asked for tea. then asked for a laptop. "I'm not done yet," she said. "Neither are you." They wrote a manifesto. Not just a story and expose. Names, dates, systems. Evelyn knew every rot beneath the marble. Malik knew how to make the world care. And when they published it under both named James and Armitageite shattered walls, senators resigned. Bank executives fled the country. International courts opened investigations. And in the middle of it all, a 15-year-old boy from Easton Heights sat beside a woman who had once been a ghost and now was a storm. But the cost was steep. They couldn't go home. Not yet. The threats came in daily. Digital, anonymous, encrypted. Some subtle, some terrifying. One message simply read, "We cleaned up after her once. We can do it again." Malik read it aloud. Evelyn chuckled bitterly. "Let them come. This time, we won't disappear quietly." The world was watching now. After the manifesto, Malik and Evelyn weren't just names. They were firebrands, symbols, myths. News anchors debated their intentions. Politicians condemned them publicly while scrambling privately. Civil rights groups named them among the new American radicals. Children studied them in school. But to Malik, it never felt like fame. It felt like responsibility and pressure. The safe house became a bunker. Every knock at the door made his heart race. He'd watch Evelyn sleep, fragile but unafraid, and wonder how she carried so much weight for so long without breaking. She never talked about death, but he could see it in the way she moved slow, with effort, in the way her eyes stayed on the horizon, like she didn't expect to see what came next. One night, she called him to her room. "I want you to do something for me," she said, voice quiet. "Anything. There's a man named Elijah Dower. Lies in Ghana now. He was my father's lawyer, the only one who never sold out. He helped me hide the first documents. I sent him something, years ago, something that matters more than all this noise." "What was it?" "A will." Malik blinked. "A will. Everything," she said. "Everything I ever owned. The real assets. Not the foundations, not the fake accounts. The land, the gold, the deeds. It's all there. And it's not for me anymore. It's for the ones they tried to erase." She coughed, a dry, shallow sound. "I need you to bring it back." "You mean go to Ghana?" She smiled, weary but sure. "You've lit the fire here. Now, finish what I couldn't." He didn't want to leave her, but she made him promise. 2 weeks later, Malik stepped off the plane in Accra with the original files hidden in a memory stick sewn inside a shoe. He found Elijah Dower in a quiet office overlooking a beach. The man had gray dreadlocks, eyes like flint, and spoke as if he'd been waiting forever. "She lived?" he asked. Malik nodded. "She saved you." Malik hesitated. "She saw me." "That's better." They worked for days. Elijah pulled old documents from safes beneath the floorboards. He decrypted files only Evelyn and her father had touched. What emerged was staggering. Land deeds across Africa, South America, the Caribbean. Mines, water rights, all untouched. All legally under Evelyn's name. All set to transfer on one condition: that they be placed into a new foundation run not by governments or elites, but by communities most affected by corporate exploitation. She could have taken it all to her grave, Elijah said. Instead, she left it to history. When Malik returned to the States, the news was already out. Evelyn Armitage had died peacefully in her sleep. She left behind no funeral, no headstone, only a single note taped to the door of the safe house. "I was never lost. I was waiting." Malik didn't cry. Not right away. It took weeks, maybe months. One night, he woke up in a motel room outside Baltimore and couldn't breathe. He called her number, knowing she wouldn't pick up, and cried for an hour when it went to voicemail. She had become his compass. Now he had to find north on his own. A year passed. The Armitage Redemption Fund launched quietly, but grew fast. Malik refused to put his name on it. "It's hers," he said. "I'm just holding the lantern." But the people knew. Schools in Detroit bore murals of Evelyn and Malik together. Villages in Sierra Leone named water stations after her. In Easton Heights, the corner where Evelyn once sat became a memorial garden. At its center, a bronze statue of her holding a sandwich in one hand and a notebook in the other. And beneath it, etched in stone, she saw what they ignored, and she gave it to the ones they feared. Malik didn't go back to school. Instead, he traveled. Ghana, Colombia, Louisiana, everywhere Evelyn had planted silent seeds. He helped them bloom. He spoke little. He listened more. And in every place he visited, people handed him letters, pictures, recording stories of resistance and silence. He kept them all. One day, while walking through a remote mountain village in Peru, a little girl tugged at his coat. She handed him a worn envelope, inside which was a photograph. It was Evelyn, younger, smiling, standing next to her father in front of a small school. On the back, written in her unmistakable handwriting, "Even fire needs a place to rest." That night, Malik finally stopped running. He bought a cabin in Vermont, the same state where Roland Armitage had once built his fortress of corruption. Only now, that estate was a public museum filled with the very files Evelyn had once buried. Justice moves slow, but it does move. In the cabin, Malik began to write. Not exposé, not manifestos, just stories, truths disguised as fiction, characters that looked like kids he grew up with, villains that wore Armani suits, heroes who wore scars. One of the first stories was titled, "The Woman Everyone Ignored." He didn't use her name. He didn't need to, because by then, the world knew her, and they knew him. But more importantly, they remembered. Years later, when Malik was much older, a group of college students tracked him down. They were making a documentary about Evelyn, about what her legacy had become. One of them asked, "Do you think she forgave her brother?" Malik looked out the window. The snow was falling, soft and silent. "No," he said, "but she left room for him to try. Do you think she'd be proud of what you've done?" He smiled. "I think she'd say it's not done yet." The camera clicked off. Later that night, Malik stood outside in the cold, staring at the stars. He thought about that first day when he offered her a sandwich, when she asked if she looked like a Clara. He whispered into the wind, "You never did." And for a moment, it felt like she was there again watching, smiling, unseen by most, but never forgotten. Because some people aren't just part of history. They make it, quietly, fiercely. And in doing so, they teach the rest of us how to see. The end. Thank you for listening. If you find it interesting, please like and subscribe to follow the next stories.